Okay, my name is Bill Waycott. Working currently at Monsanto Vegetable Seeds, also known as Seminis. Have a long history here in California. Grew up here. I worked at the Department of Agriculture here in Salinas for 15 years, and then started off after that in private industry with Pedo Seed, which has now gone through many incarnations up to Monsanto, Seminis. And I'm working in lettuce, which is a big deal here in California. And I want to show you another point of view in terms of trying to control and live with the diseases and pests that we have in this area. We're addressing it from the point of view of genetics and trying to have a natural, if you will, approach to pest control, where the plant is resistant and the diseases don't have an option. They're not able to operate under those circumstances. And it's a long process. It takes many years. A cycle of a lettuce plant from seed to harvest takes about 5 months. So in 1 year, we can only get about 2 cycles. Excuse me. Over there. Okay, well, just a picture of lettuce field. Go ahead. Here? Okay. Probably most of you know the lettuce in California and Arizona is produced in the areas where you see the circles. Most of the summer materials are produced on the Central Coast. Then there's a jump over into Fresno County in the Huron area, and then down into the deserts, Southern California and Western Arizona. And that's through the winter period, and then we come back up the coast after that. And I wanted to give you guys just a very quick genetics lesson. I don't know if many of you have studied biology, but if you have, when we look at we cross parent 1 and parent 2, and if we have 2 genes in operation, let's say the gene for resistance is gene A, and we need 1 copy of that capital A, we get that in the first generation. So if you're a hybrid seed crop, in the first generation, all your seeds are large A, small a. That 1A will give you resistance. But lettuce is not a hybrid, it's a varietal, they call it, or it's a line that's inbred, it's not a hybrid. So we have to go through this second process where we cross the one with itself, and then we get a bunch of segregation going on. And that's why it's difficult, because we have to pick out the best one out of many options, and it's not always easy to find that. So if the A, reading at the bottom there, if the A, capital A, is a single dominant resistance gene, 75% of our progeny are going to be resistant. But if we need 2 genes, an A and a B, it'll only be 56%. If it's a single recessive gene, and some of these diseases are recessive genes, we may only get 25%, or in the case of 2 genes, 6%. Okay, so this is really looking for a needle in a haystack in many cases, and that's why breeding takes a long time, because we have to look at all these actions. Diseases are many. Lettuce is, just waiting for so many things to come along and attack it. We have all sorts of fungi here at the top: Verticillium, Fusarium, Sclerotinia, which is called lettuce drop, and downy mildew. We have a bacteria which also thrives on lettuce, and then many viruses: big vein, dieback, the toscoviruses, and then at the bottom I talk a little bit about the lettuce rudate, not the rudate, but the lettuce aphid, and physiological disorder called Tipler. But nonetheless, it is a big job. So here we have Verticillium wilt. It's a soil-borne fungus which plugs the vascular tissue of the roots. It's quite prevalent here in this valley. It's expanding. We've been told to put this at the top of our breeding list right now, because there's a danger that this will continue to spread throughout the valley, and there's no way it can stop it through genetic resistance. So this is a very important thing. The good news is that it's a single dominant gene. So in my example there, it has a capital A, so the first progeny from the cross, there'll be 75% of the plants that will be resistant. So that's the good news. So to make our job a little bit easier. Another one, sorry I can't read it, but it's Fusarium. This is a problem in the warmer areas, down south in the King City area and over in Fresno County, in Imperial Valley. Same thing, fungus plugs the vascular tissue, and you can get huge areas of the field that don't even grow plants because of this issue, this soil-borne fungus. The bad news here is that we still don't even know what the genetics of resistance are. We're still investigating that. So it's going to take a while. We know that there's partial resistance, and so we can use that right now and keep our fingers crossed. Romaine tends to be more resistant than iceberg, so that's a good thing to know. But it's still a big question mark as far as coming up with better genetics. Picture of Sclerotinia, you may have seen this. It's a very aggressive fungus that just completely takes over and dominates the field. It's also not known. We have no current genetics for that, but it's under investigation, another fungus. And then Downy mildew, you probably heard about this. This is an airborne fungus that floats around in the air. Under moist conditions, it can infect the surface of the leaves. Good news is that it's only a single gene for resistance, but there are over 40 races. So it becomes very complex. And this is illustrated by this chart. I don't expect you to read all this, but down the left-hand side you can see the plants that we use to tell us what the actual race is. And across the top you have the different races. And as you can see from the upper left to the lower right, there's more and more red showing up, which means that we're losing our resistance as we go forward. More and more of the genes for resistance that we use are now dropping out of sight because of the aggressiveness of this fungus and the ability of it to continue to produce new races. It's very, very good at that. Okay, so those are the fungi. One bacteria that we deal with is bacterial leaf spot. It comes out of the soil when it rains and splashes on the leaves. Good news is we have a single dominant gene for that, and we're moving forward with resistance on that level. Big vein virus, these are the viruses. This is quite prevalent in any of lettuce production areas, in winter production and spring production. As you can see, it forms a pattern of the leaves, which is not very aesthetic, and it can cause lack of heading and slow growth. This is a soil-borne fungus that is vectored, soil-borne virus vectored by a fungus, very unusual relationship, and we still don't have a good picture of the genetics of resistance. Dieback, which is also very prevalent in this valley. It's also known as tomato bushy stunt virus. It's vectored by water and it's in the soil. Good news is that all iceberg varieties are resistant, but unfortunately, romaine, leafless, and butterheads are quite susceptible. Good news is it's a single dominant gene, and so we're moving that into our romaine, leaf lettuce, and butterhead varieties right now. There are even some new varieties on the market that are resistant. Toxical viruses, impatient necrotic spot and tomato spotted wilt are in the area. We've seen them increasing a little bit at this time. They require living tissue to go from plant to plant. They are vectored by thrips, which are a very, very, very small insect. You see the life cycle here on the left-hand side. They're almost invisible. And they can create some real havoc in areas where warm conditions exist, and they're able to fly from plant to plant. We do know that there's probably intermediate resistance for this problem, but we still haven't identified the genes as yet. Okay, so those are the diseases, quite a few of them, fungi, bacteria, and viruses. We also have the Nasonovia aphid that we have resistance for, a single dominant gene, which is a very good thing. It's quite common here in the coast now after it was introduced from Europe about 10 years ago. So this resistance is being incorporated into our materials. Lastly, we have lettuce tickworm, which is a physiological disorder. It occurs when plants are growing rapidly and they can't translocate their calcium to the growing points. The decay of this problem can permit secondary infection like bacteria. And so you can imagine if you have this in a bag of salad on the grocery store shelf and it has this defect in there and probably some resident fungus or bacteria in it, it can really make a mess of the salad. So the tolerance for tickworm right now in this valley is 0. And we try our best to genetically get to a point where we don't have that problem. It's a challenge, but we're moving forward. Then I just wanted to give a plug for where we get our resistance. The origin of lettuce is the Eastern Mediterranean region, and so all of our resistances come from wild species. Okay? Here's a couple of pictures of those. Lactuca nerissa on the left and Lactuca saligna on the right. It's a long ways from starting with something that looks like this and ending up with something we can serve for salad on a plate. Some of the new genes we're looking towards now because of the change in times. Obviously, water and nitrogen use efficiencies are something that are very important moving forward here. We're making some progress on that, as well as heat and salt stress in the changing environment. And there's already a couple of new diseases in the valley right now, which I didn't report, which have shown up in the last 12 months. Have to look for it. So that's what it is. It's a labor of love, but it somehow works step by step. Any questions?
Are your programs all selection based or
None of this is genetic modification. It's all done through traditional breeding and crossing of flowers. We are able to use DNA tests for what they call molecular markers, which essentially identify if the piece of DNA that has the gene is there or not. It makes our breeding processes speed up a little faster rather than having to always treat the plant and wait for the symptoms to show up.
what material are you using for that?
Well, it's simply looking at, you take the DNA extract of the plant and then you probe it with a marker that would identify if the gene is present or not. It's all done in the lab. But everything else is what they're doing hundreds of years ago. It hasn't changed. Yes?
So is the concept there was a resistant gene in a plant, and you then want to breed that gene into new varieties of the lettuce, so that gene will develop resistance?
Yeah, you probably heard the term back crossing. So we cross with one of these weeds, and then we have to cross it back to the traditional lettuce probably 5 times. And each time we test for the resistance, if it's there or not. If it's there, then we make another cross, another cross, another cross, and finally we come up with something we can eat. Yes?
Can you help me imagine how aphids from Europe could make it to California?
Yeah, I understood, and this is old information, that it came in a shipment of radicchio that came from Italy to the United States. That's what I heard.
So if you have 20, 25 different diseases that you're trying to develop resistance for, and each of those is gene specific, then how do you get all of those into the same plant?
Yeah, that's because we can't use hybrid combinations. We only have essentially one plant. So it's this giant pyramid scheme. Yes, yeah. It is.
So you're trying to breed all to that one customer.
So you can see where the molecular markers are going to help, because that'll cut the time. We don't have to wait until it's 60 days old to decide if it's resistant or not. So that helps. But, it's not impossible. Other crops have been able to stack genes and we find the same. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
this thing's starting to pick up. I guess you start a barbecue and the whole valley smells it and is ready to eat. We're really lucky. One of our barbecuers, as I understand it, but more importantly, truly a friend of the valley, the industry, has a few words to share, and that's our own Senator Anthony Cannella. He just made a stop. Thank you very much.
It's great to be here. This is a kind of exciting development, technology and agriculture. Obviously, agriculture is the driving engine of the Salinas Valley, and then our other driving engine for California is Silicon Valley, and then the two to come together, I think, is a great idea. So it's great to be here. I'm looking forward to walking around and seeing a lot of the new technology, and look forward to see how big this becomes. So I think it's a great first start. So again, thank you very much for having me, and I look forward to a great day. So thanks.
Any questions for the senator? I mean, come on, it's not that often you know, and let alone you know, a leader that's not being indicted or packing heat. I will just say one of the things I appreciate about our local senator is he's a well-known moderate. He's oftentimes the deciding vote on the state budget. He takes hard positions, and coming from an agricultural community means a lot. So, any questions at all? Anybody want to ask?
We are having a water town hall tonight. I don't have the address. I've got it somewhere. But
Salinas Rotunda.
Thank you. But if you want to come by, we're gonna have a lot of good panelists on there. Obviously, water's on all of our minds. Water issues are different throughout the state. Water in the Salinas Valley is different than water in the Central Valley, but clearly we've got to do more to make sure that farms get water. So if you can come by tonight. So thanks again.
5 to 6:30, Salinas City Hall, Rotunda. Another thing I'll say about Senator Cannella is he's leading the charge on really trying to better manage the Salinas River. And I want to thank you for that. You've pulled together a very diverse group of stakeholders, the environmentalists, the folks on the business side, agricultural landowners. It's important. When I spoke with Anthony and said, hey, we're putting on this event, it's really Salinas Valley's first step forward, saying we're here, we're going to lead and not follow. He said, how can I help? And I said, well, you can man the barbecue. So we might even see him out there, with some burgers and everything. We have about, 30 minutes or so, or 45 minutes for lunch, a while for lunch. I want to remind everybody that if you're here as a PCA or a QAL or QAC, please sign in at the front counter registration so you get your credit hours. And then also take the passport and make your way around. If there's a vendor you don't see, and we had 2 that didn't have tables after all, just draw an X through it, or get the senator's signature, or one of the doctors, the scientists, and just be sure to turn it in, because we're going to give away a flat screen TV at the close of this afternoon. So please, let's give Anthony a round of applause for coming. Anthony, this is a gift from us. Take some flowers with you. Those were grown in Salinas, Kentucky. All right. Well, we'll go ahead and break for lunch. Thanks, and we'll be back here in about 30 minutes or so.